And I've got a list here of, I think, the top 10 things to be thankful for. And thankful, too, for the overturning of Roe. And I want to begin at number one with what Aaron highlighted in his montage, and that's to thank God. There is only one being in this universe capable of playing 4D chess, as Aaron eloquently put it. All of the various dominoes that had to fall into place. Even the timing. This is happening in an election year, and frankly, will have almost no impact on the midterm elections whatsoever. Because people are in such economic dire straits that, frankly, they don't have time. They can't afford the time to even consider this issue for a lot of people that might have even been the most offended by it. If this had happened at another time, maybe that wouldn't have been the case. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I mean, this is what you just saw. This is Romans 8 in action. My favorite chapter in all the Bible. I think it's the most soaring prose in all the Bible. The peak of Paul's intellectual prowess, guided by the Holy Spirit. That entire chapter is the single greatest win one for the Gipper, life coach, you can do it, writings of all time. And particularly verse 28. All things work together for the glory of God and for those called according to his purposes. What does it look like to have a sovereign God? It looks like this. So thank him first and foremost. Number two, thank Trump. Hey, man, if you had Donald J. Trump overturning Roe, the president that will overturn Roe, on your 1987 Culture War bingo card, who's winning the Super Bowl this year, okay? And the World Series, and the Kentucky Derby, and everything else, all right? Because you've got a sixth sense that I don't have, brother, and very few people do. But here we are. And I remember the last debate, and he said, I'm going to appoint justices that overturned Roe. Not just the typical GOP strict constructionist language, but I'm going to appoint justices that overturn Roe v. Wade. Just said it right out loud. And he did. And in my opinion, this is the greatest accomplishment domestically by a Republican president since, at the very least, Reagan's turnaround of the nation's morale and the economy in the 80s. And maybe, given the moral gravity of this event, maybe you go all the way back to Eisenhower and desegregation of the schools, post-Brown versus Board of Education era.
Yeah, and there's a theory out there that one of the last dominoes that really urged Trump or really put him over the edge in his decision to make a serious run for the president was when he was roasted to his face by Barack Obama at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Thank Obama for that.
Think if that's really true.
He's not on the list, but we could add an 11th spot if you want to do that. Yes. What you can also think is, I was told by people very close to him at the time that the only thing that the reason for the first time in his life he ever fully entertained the pro-life position was seeing how radically late-term abortion New York Democrats had gotten, and just how repulsed he was by that notion. So maybe thank them too. We can go down to 12 if you want to do those two things as well. Number three, I think we have to thank our founding fathers for the Constitution. It actually still works when we work it. Lo and behold, when we don't spend decades on, and you know what, if you plug your nose and wear white after Labor Day and stand on one foot for 3 hours, then you can kill the baby. We did those pieces of legislation for decades. Lo and behold, we decided, how about we just attack them on the premise with the Constitution as our main weapon? And lo and behold, in just a few years, this house of cards, this canard that we thought was this shibboleth of the dam that was absolutely unbreakable, plunges down into the dirt like Samson did the temple of the fish demon Dagon. The Constitution, it still works when we work it. Number four, thank states like Mississippi, who finally, after Casey 30 years ago, rose up to challenge Roe. Alabama did it. Iowa did it. Mississippi did it. Texas did it. Mississippi, of course, is the case on record. That's their case, the Dobbs case. But a series of states did this so that the court had to take one of them. If just one state had done it, they would have said, well, we're not going to take the case. Or you would have risked that at least. But when multiple states rose up to do it, now the court has to rein in. Now there's a movement. It has to respect the movement. It's not an outlier. So thank those states. Number 5, thank the pro-life activists who compelled them to do so after being tired of years of compromise. I think of my buddy Keith, who was one of the people on the ground floor. He texted me over the weekend at Personhood USA. And ultimately, that organization did not turn out to be successful in the way that we had hoped it would be. It turned out to be far more successful than we ever envisioned. The movement we put on the ground, starting in places like Georgia and in other states, to demand we start defining what is a person. Right out of the Roe trial. We got that from the Roe trial at the Supreme Court, from the hearing. That was the one place that the baby-killing attorneys acknowledged their case was weak, so why don't we go there? And there was a group of activists that forced the issue, got this out of what our mucky muck Gaston Mooney, who used to be work on Capitol Hill for Senator Jim DeMint, calls Big Baby, got it out of the vile clutches of the endless fundraising mechanisms and actually confronted the vile clutches of the baby killers. So you activists who did this, who demanded more, you played a big role in this. And you made a lot of enemies. And you won't be invited back at party functions, and you won't be the banquet speakers anymore. And you never got asked to speak at the March for Life or anything of that nature. I know, I'm one of you. You've been blackmarked by the mainstream pro-life movement. But I'm here to tell you today, as your brother in arms, this doesn't happen unless you answer that call and turn over those money changers and ruffle those feathers. So thank you to all of you. Somewhere, Dan Becker, the former head of Georgia Right to Life, who was also huge in this kind of push in the underground pro-life movement, and others like you, a tip of the cap. Number 6, thank Justices Thomas and Alito for their powerful opinions. Their opinions and what they wrote can go far beyond Roe. Thomas even itemized opinions like Obergefell, use this to overturn these other things. Just like, the whole thing with Brett Kavanaugh basically wrote an opinion last year against the NCAA that basically invited all future attorneys, anytime the NCAA tries to limit player compensation, come to my court. Here's how you'll beat the NCAA. Thomas wrote that opinion about a lot of these canards of fake rights that the courts conjured up for decades. But it was Alito who gave him the launching pad for that with his just wonderfully written and eloquent opinion. Number 7, thank the conservative activists who stood up to George W. Bush and demanded a justice like Alito instead of Harriet Miers 20 years ago. Thank them. They made a lot of enemies too. But had they not done that, had they not risked being blacklisted by the mainstream conservative movement, who knows, Harriet Miers might have been your Sandra Day O'Connor. The deciding vote to uphold Roe against Casey, the Reagan appointee. She was the deciding vote to uphold Roe against Casey, the Democratic governor at the time who was trying to overturn it. That's how long ago that was. The Reagan appointee judge overturned Roe against the wishes of the Democratic governor of Pennsylvania. So we could have had maybe the next Sandra Day O'Connor. Instead, we got Samuel Alito because the base stood up. See, that's a key point. When you assert your power and authority, when you force these Republicans, when you corner them, when you make them cower as opposed to cover for them, you get your way. We just don't do it enough. Number 8, thank all the justices who voted to overturn Roe, including previous disappointments Kavanaugh and Barrett, for not folding in the wake of the leak that was meant to intimidate them. Thank them for that. This first year, Brett Kavanaugh has made me regret quite a bit the amount of effort people like us spent defending him against that character assassination. But in the last couple of weeks, he has paid off. Number 9, thank yourselves, not Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell didn't give Merrick Garland a hearing because he really cared about finding the next Antonin Scalia, because he was afraid of you. The only issue left that has most of you slavishly voting for the Republican Party is judicial appointments. In 2016, that was the number 2 issue in the exit polling, behind only the economy, was judicial appointments, and Trump won those voters by about 25 points. McConnell knew if they let Barack Obama, of all people, appoint Antonin Scalia's successor in broad daylight, this entire house of cards that he has concocted to grow his power and corner you and take it away from you, all of it blows up in broad daylight. This isn't conviction. This is the same guy that just voted for them to create a registry last week of crazy people like you for being pro-life, for thinking the election was stolen. He didn't do this for any other reason other than self-defense. He knew that if they allowed that, alongside the emergence of a disruptor like Trump, the entire system that they have fabricated over there called the swamp would all be irradiated instantly. He did this for self-defense. He did this in fear of you. So think yourselves and make them fear you even more. And then number 10. Finally, and most ironically, thank the unsung hero here, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That's right, wherever she is in eternity now. The great heroine of the modern third wave feminist movement, our modern day Margaret Sanger. Had she not held on to that Supreme Court seat for so long that she outlived Barack Obama, we would not be here today. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, of all people, has become one of the greatest pro-life justices of all time.
How do you like that boomerang?
Yes, and we cannot thank her enough. And that is Romans 8:28. For all things work together for the glory of God and for those called according to his purposes. So maybe we're the ones that need to wear the Ruth Bader Ginsburg shirts now. Maybe we're the ones. Maybe we should do our own Ginsburg documentary, Hero of the pro-life movement, because she held on to that seat for till the bitter end.
If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe to our channel so you'll be sure to see similar videos from Blaze TV, with the added bonus of signaling YouTube that your voice and opinion still matters. And if you're looking for more great conservative content, check out one of the 2 videos suggested here.